Integral friend, peace and blessing. This is RauKhu more. And, a few weeks ago, I went ahead and I made a video. And first of all, before I even go down that road, before I even start talking about the actual topic, I want you to understand something. I am aware of the fact that, I'm making content and I'm only getting like a few views and all that kind of stuff. The reason why it's like that is mainly because, in one sense, I have been kind of shadow banned. But in another sense, part of the reason why that's happening is because I'm not making content to chase the bag. I'm making content based upon this is what I think people, this is what I'm going through. And because this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm experiencing. These are the thoughts and things that I'm coming across and I'm encountering. I'm as a result, I'm like, let me go ahead and make a video about this because I think somebody else is going to be going through that same experience. Because I understand, or at least this is my belief, that we all we move collectively. So because we all came here, there's a reason why we all incarnated to this physical plane for a reason at this time. It's no coincidence that we are all here. We're all talking about the whole ancestor veneration. We all have this interest in the Kemetic thing, and we all got this interest in the Congo thing. Okay? It's not coincidence. So because I know that, I'm not making content to chase the bag. I could easily make make some videos talking about, how hoodoo is this and how to use hoodoo and this is how you use this spell and all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. And before we go there, I'm not trying to knock anybody who's doing that, but I could easily go ahead and make videos about that kind of stuff, but it wouldn't serve our purpose. It wouldn't move us further along. We are here we have a destiny. We have a purpose of being here. We have a purpose of why we're interested in the topic that we're in, because we're trying to move. Remember, it only takes a few of us to move the crowd. All right, only takes a few of us, and that's what we're here. That's the reason why. You see the videos I'm putting out. I'm trying to get us to think. I'm trying to get us to have some conversation about it. I appreciate if you have a difference in opinion, you see it another way, feel free, share. I am not by any means the one that's going to say, okay, well, everything I'm dealing with is perfect. That's not what I'm going to do. All right. So I wanted to put that out there because like I said, I want us to have a conversation about this. I told you it was a few years ago. I told you, everybody, excuse me. I told you everybody for the most part is all on this whole ancestry thing. Everybody's into ancestor veneration. Everybody. And that's kind of odd. Why is everybody into ancestor veneration? Why all of a sudden a topic that we have been, for the most part, persecuted as a people, why all of a sudden now everybody's interested in it, and I said we got to watch out for this, because everybody who's going ahead and telling us something, they just on the wagon, they're not really down for us. They don't really hold our interest. They're not really about change. They're about keeping that same old wheel going. All right. And we're not here for that. We're here to break the spokes and create a whole new cart. That's why we're here. Now, A few weeks ago, I made a video. And in this video, I was talking about how everybody's not an ancestor. All right. There was a few comments of, some individuals, some family that was like, hey, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. That's confusing. And I try to, in this short amount of time, I try to explain and clarify what I meant by that. And I try to also clarify what I was saying in my response. And I don't think it came across right. And so that's what I wanted to do in this video. I want to kind of address that just a little bit more. And I want you to understand something. Ancestor veneration, even though ancestor veneration is a ancient practice, it's been practiced all over the world. Within the context of our ancestry, it's been practiced as well. It's a key practice. All right. Even on the continent of Africa, prior to slavery and everything, it was practiced. Now, here's where we have to get into a little bit of, we got to study. We got to look at the history. We got to look at the philosophy. We got to look at different things. And the reason why is because everybody who honored their ancestors in the ancient, I don't want to say ancient sense, but in in our ancestral land, okay, in Africa, in the continent of Africa, everybody who honored the ancestors did not honor the same way. And the reason why we did not honor the same way is because we all had different perspectives. We had different cultural perspectives and beliefs and ideologies. This is what made us different ethnic groups. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the way they honored their ancestors is different from the way the Yoruba honored their ancestors. The way the Yoruba honored their ancestors is different from the way the Akan honored their ancestors. The way the Akan honored their ancestors is different from the way the Bakongo honored their ancestors. All right? Even though they're all in Central West Africa, they had these cultural differences. And these cultural differences, basically, they determine how they were honored their ancestors. They determined and they distinguished how they honored their ancestors. All right. And based upon this, everyone is not considered to be an ancestor just because they passed away, just because they transitioned. Right. So to kind of put this in context in regards to our situation, like I said before, ancestor veneration is this hot topic. Everybody's into, I honor my ancestors. I've been doing this for all this time, And again, like I said, we know this is bogus. You're on the wagon because it's a hot topic, all right? And this is the reason why I put out there. I said, hey, everybody who honors their ancestors is not considered an ancestor. Just because just because they've passed away, they've transitioned, they've died, they're not an ancestor. So think about it from this perspective. I haven't really, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't really come across a lot of, and I'm gonna try to keep it real. I'm gonna try to keep it 100, but at the same time, I'm trying to be tactful, all right, because I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes when I'm doing this, but I want you to see the truth of this. I don't really know of a whole lot of Westerners or people of European descent or Caucasians with the last name Washington and the last name Jefferson. Not saying it doesn't exist, but every person I've ran into, every person I've known whose last name is Washington or whose last name is Jefferson, all right, they look like me. Now, in one sense, what I'm getting at is, so Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, would they be considered your ancestors? Those individuals who have that last name, do you consider them to be your ancestors? The individuals who are partially responsible for, and I say partially because there's a whole lot of contributing factors, but they're partially involved in and responsible for some of the things that have gone on in our, throughout the diaspora, throughout the Afro diaspora. Do you consider them to be an ancestor? Okay. And if they were an ancestor to who? You see where I'm getting at with this? I mean, why, if in other words, if I had the last name Washington, or I had, here I am, I'm a brother, and I got the last name Washington, or I got the last name Jefferson. Do I honor Thomas Jefferson? Do I honor George Washington? Yeah, because by definition of what a lot of these people are promoting, they're considered ancestors. They might be even considered spirit guides. But think about that. Do you really want to honor them? If you went ahead and you honored them, what would be the benefit of it? All right? This is what I meant when I'm saying everybody is not considered an ancestor. And this is part of the reason why I was bringing up, like I said, the book by, I believe the author's name is Simone Boki, okay, who did Death and Invisible Powers in the Congo, okay. This is the reason why I brought this book up, is because I'm showing from a Congo-Angolan perspective, which is why most of us who are on this channel, why we gravitated to this. This is how we view ancestors. We didn't view everybody as being an ancestor just because they transition. I mean, now, that's not to say that I don't think that, there's some lessons or so that can be learned from George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. I'm quite sure there's quite a few things that can be learned from them. But would it uplift our people? Would it let me put it, a little bit more, make it a little bit more real for us. Would it uplift my family? Would it uplift my community? Will it improve and will it improve the quality of life for my family, my community, and my people? All right? So when you think about it from that perspective, that's what I meant when I'm saying everybody who passes or transitions is not considered an ancestor. All right? Think about, and I hate to use this term because I know we all have these moments. We've all had, moments in which we transition and so. But to put it in perspective, think about the Pookies and Ray Rays. Think about these ratchet individuals. They're on that path right now. If these individuals passed away, they transition, are you going to put them on your ancestor altar? No, I don't. Not me. Unless I'm trying to get that energy. Unless I'm trying to remember, hey, this is how to be a Pookie and a Ray Ray. This is how to be ratchet. This is how to be that 304. No, why would I do that? So just because they transition does not make them an ancestor. So that's what I'm saying. We got to stop listening to these individuals and these people who are promoting this stuff, talking about they know our stuff, they know our culture, they know this. And just because they wrote a book, because they went ahead and they experienced this is what they are. No. You need to scrutinize. You need to be very, very, scrutinize everything you get. Be skeptical, that's the term, skeptical of every little bit of information you get, because this time right now that we're in, this is a fight against the principalities. All right? This is where we're at. So I wanted to put that out there because I wanted you to understand. And by the way, and this is what they're, this is what's coming to me. You have an individual who went ahead and they transition. You had a person, family member, whatever the case is, they transitioned. And what do? They were a Pookie, they were a Ray Ray, and they transitioned. What do you do? Well, there are several things you can do. And I can't go through all of them because it's going to take us beyond this. This is what I offer when people go ahead and they talk to me, individually, and they ask certain things. So I can't give you all of that. But the one thing I know of, they can be elevated. All right? They can be elevated. But they have to be elevated there has to be an agreement. They have to come to terms with, hey, this is how this is where I messed up at. This is what I did. Let me go this route. I've mentioned to you all before, I've had spirits come and I have them on my ancestral altar, and they would leave. They all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they would leave. The thing I can understand from this is basically it's like the vibration is too high for them, so they can't deal with it. So they would make some kind of motion, not physical, because I'm not dealing with phantasms, but they would give me some kind of hint. Hey, I can't be on here. I got to do some things. I gotta work to this level. All right. And after I go ahead and I move them to a different part of the of altar space. They're okay with it. And then they're able to learn. They're able to see the mistakes, the errors of their ways. And then they're able to contribute. All right. They were elevated, but then they're able to contribute. Then they're able to contribute to my family. They're able to contribute to my community, and so forth and so on. All right. And this is where I was getting at. You got to do the work when it comes to this. All right. Because a lot of our ancestors, and I'm saying the term loosely because this is the term that most of us, we understand. But a lot of of our family members who've transitioned are really in a state of what they refer to as purgatory. Because you got to remember, back in the day when we were developing our thought, we were developing our way of doing things based upon our ancestral way of doing things. Back in the day when we were doing all that, this is all of a sudden this when the Christianity was really, really pushed. So a lot of our ancestors are like, okay, or a lot of our, our deceased loved ones, they're like, okay, well, do I go to heaven? Or do I go to hell? How do I go to heaven if I'm, and be an ancestor? I'm not sure. This is the reason why we have so many people who are involved in the whole Christian thing, who are, they're all confused. They're confused because it's a reflection of what's going on in the ancestral realm, okay, in the spirit realm. They're confused too, all right? So I wanted to put that out there because, and those of you who, this is meant for you and everything, you understand where I'm going with this, it should go ahead and it should answer some things that's going on within, within your psyche, what you've been kind of dealing with. Those of you who are not, you're not there yet, and I'm not knocking you or anything, but you'll see if you stay with this for a while. If you stick with this, you'll get to that point. You'll start to understand, oh, this is what they were talking about. Okay. So again, thanks again for being supportive of this. Again, I'm doing these videos not to chase the bag. All right. The bag ain't that big anyway, but I'm doing this not to chase the bag. I'm doing this because this is what we need, and this is This is part of, it's part of my healing as well as part of your healing. It's therapeutic. This is the whole shamanic thing, So if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free, drop me a line. Until the next time, fam, head to poo. Peace.